afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Port Center Spotlight podcast. I am here with longtime teacher, my good friend, a strong leader, person in science, woman in science, Kasey Stankunas. Kasey, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mr. Rada.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Kasey. Really excited. So much to talk about. Kasey is a teacher here in Port Jervis High School. She's been here 17 years.
And I did my student teaching here too with Mr. Dunleavy.
Way back when you were promised a classroom, we finally got you one.
Yeah, it took a little bit. But.
Yeah. So Kasey, again, is a teacher here. She is our science coordinator. She's doing a ton of cool stuff. She does a lot of things outside of her classroom for the district. So we want to spotlight her on. If you are watching, if you're one of her students watching in class now, please say hello. One of her former students, please say hello. And we're excited to have her on. Kasey, welcome.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, 17 years. How do you feel now, Kasey? You went from this rookie, young, hotshot teacher to now a veteran leading the science department. How does it feel?
Every day is different. I feel like some days I am still a rookie teacher. I'm teaching a bunch of different and new preps this year. And then some days I just feel like it's every day. But every day is a new day, and it's interesting. Yeah.
You walk into Kasey's room, there's a number of tanks and plants and animals and all kinds of stuff. You can tell it's a science room. Kasey, tell us about that love of science. Like, where did that come from in your life?
I think early in childhood, I always consider myself, I was raised like a feral child, right? Like, my childhood moments, we had a pond in the backyard and we would always be out and catching frogs and fishing and just really in nature. Like, I don't think I was allowed in the house unless it was pouring or thundering. And it was just exploring. It was a lot of hiking and camping and growing up. And I think it spurred a little bit of inquiry into like, how do these things happen? Why does this happen? And that just kind of not having the answers caused me to research them and figure it out.
Yeah. And was it in high school that you said, I want to teach? Where in your life was that you wanted to be a teacher?
It took me a long time to realize I wanted to be a teacher. If I had my dream, it was always to like be in research and then like field research, especially. And then I realized like the animals aren't going to talk back to me and I can't ever stop talking. So I figured that probably wasn't the best career path for me. Like the cells in a microscope are not going to have a conversation. So that's when I kind of pivoted and thought maybe education's a better avenue.
But you found that passion now with what you're doing research with students, taking them to some of these incredible spots. You've led a field trip the past few years up north, Saranac Lake? No.
Yeah. So we just got back. We always go over Regents Week.
Yeah.
And so we do Lake Placid.
Lake Placid.
The Olympic history, right? Like there's so much Olympic history in Lake Placid. A group of kids do go skiing and snowboarding at Whiteface. No injuries to date, knock on wood. And then from there, we'll stop over at the Wild Center in Tupper Lake. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It is actually in the running for the top 10 museums in America.
Wow.
I think voting's still open, so check it out, the Wild Center.
Let's get our Port students voting that have visited.
Yeah, it's super cool. So we stop at the Wild Center. They lead some educational programming, especially on like climatic shift in the Adirondacks and how it's affecting those species there. So they bring out different animals for us. This year they brought out, I forget its name. It was the ugliest little turtle, but it's cute. And the kids got to meet that guy. And then there's a lot of stuff to explore right in the museum. They've got otters and a bunch of different wildlife that they've rehabbed into the Wild Center. So you can kind of learn about it. And my favorite is the sturgeon that they have there. It's like this big. That thing is like probably 150 years old because sturgeons, grow so slowly. And then, they had a really cool feature this year at the Wild Center. It was called Birdly. So you put on these Oculus goggles and you sit on this table, like a reverse chiropractic table, and they have fans blowing in your face, and you basically pick what you want to navigate through. So some of the kids were doing like through the dinosaurs, the Cretaceous period. Some kids decided to go for the thrill, the adrenaline junkie, and they were racing through like these gullies and rock caves. But it was super cool. And then, from the Wild Center, we go and we stay at SUNY ESF's Newcomb campus. So it's on 15,000 acres in the middle of the Adirondack Park.
Wow.
The kids don't have running water in their dorms, so that takes a little bit of adjustment, and there's no cell phone service. But we do some cool stuff. Like we teach the kids how to snowshoe. So we did like a night snowshoe this year. We had lanterns set up throughout a couple of different trails that they kind of followed. It was super cool. We hike a fire tower. Sorry guys, we didn't tell them that it was about 1,100 feet in elevation gain over 2 miles.
Wow.
But then we'll talk about like the importance of fire towers early in our history and a bunch of other cool stuff. Teach the kids how to track, identify different tracks in the snow. Some of the kids did go ice fishing. They caught a fish this big. It was so cute. Yeah,
Wow.
was not fish fry for dinner. And then eventually we head home.
Wow.
So it's a really cool trip. Every year there's a lot of different laughs and a lot of different stories and a lot of different things that come up, but
including extra days sometimes.
Last
snowed
year,
in.
we got the bus stuck briefly,
Wow.
but it all works out. Everybody's in good spirits.
Your students are giving you a shout out. Rena's on there, Avery Edwards. Just the opportunities that Ms. Stankunas brings to her students, and all the things we complain about kids getting outside, exploring, going in nature, being off your phone. Like you're doing that. You're bringing them to these great spots and creating great memories, but also the learning.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like you have to enjoy nature to actually want to learn about it, right? And a lot of times, like nature seems super overwhelming because it's cold or it's wet or there's bugs or there's mud, and there's a lot of excuses why nature is not cool. But once you get past that, there's a lot out there.
Wow, Ms. Stankunas is making it cool and putting into action what you're talking about in the classroom, right? You're not just in the classroom talking about these things. You're doing it. Really cool to see. Kasey, in addition to all this teaching you're doing, you have been coaching here in Port Jervis your whole career, softball and volleyball, two loves, two mega programs, big time programs, winning programs. Tell me about your love of sports and that part of your life here in Port Jervis.
Growing up, I was always a softball player. I went to Valley Central. I played with some very, very good teams there. And I really just loved the sport. Softball was a great outlet for me. It really kept me focused. I learned a lot of time management because I played not only at the high school level, but at a travel level too, where, consumes your life. And then I got into cross country and just to stay in shape. And that really kind of taught me a lot of disciplines. So softball was something that once I decided I was going to be an educator, that's something I wanted to coach. And I met John Fagione while I was teaching here, actually. And he was like, "You're going to be my assistant coach." And that was for 14 years. We had a lot of fun, a lot of great kids and teams there. Volleyball was something that I was not experienced with. I remember the second day of school, my second year teaching, Mr. Kamar was our athletic director, and he goes knocking on my classroom door and says, "Need a favor. I need an assistant coach for volleyball." And you're a second year teacher, so you can't really say no to anything.
Voluntold.
So I learned a lot about volleyball over the next couple of years, and now I'm coaching the girls program. We're working on developing a boys program. Last year we had an intramural season. This year we're talking about gearing up for another intramural season where we're going to hopefully have 3 to 4 tournaments where we're competing at. So, I've got the guys are banging on my door looking for when's the next time we're going to play, which is awesome because I think it's a really cool culture. And I'm grateful that there's an overlap too, because last year, my girls will come and help be my team managers for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Jeff Teleko, who played for me last year, and he was my team manager all fall.
Wow.
So it's kind of a cool dynamic.
Yeah,
so,
one helping the other.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
it's an interesting concept, but it's great.
Awesome. Again, award winning programs, softball, 2-section titles, a state run there, but really empowering our young ladies. You walk in the gym during volleyball practice and there is an energy like I've never seen before. And you are focused. Those girls are on time. They are doing what you're saying. And you're so on point. Tell me about that energy that you bring. It's after school. You've worked all day. You're running around doing all these things. And then you go into the gym. And again, bringing that energy. How do you sustain all of that?
I think just maintaining that energy is kind of a respect thing, right? Like that is our sacred time. That practice time is our sacred time. So I need to commit 100% of myself to that, right? And I expect that out of my athletes too. So, it's be on time because your time's not more valuable than all of ours.
Mm.
Give me your energy because your lack of energy is not more valuable than all of ours. So I think, it's a respect thing, and it's a culture that we have conscientiously been building. Coach Cologne and Coach Antelek also are very involved in that process. I couldn't do that without them. So it's huge. And it's
Yeah.
just
Again, your students are giving you a shout out. I agree, Ms. Ramos. She is an asset to our school community. And Avery Edwards is giving a shout out to the hair. Says you're looking good.
thanks, Ave.
Did you girls help prep her for the show here? But Kasey, it's true. You're doing it in the classroom, outside the classroom, and you've taken it to the next level now, right? Just doing what you're doing wasn't enough. You joined the New York State Master Teacher Program. You applied, you were accepted, and you're currently in that now.
Yeah, I am. I'm very fortunate to have been selected. It was kind of a long process because I applied in 2019 and then the pandemic happened. So they kind of freezed everything. But fortunately, back in 2021, I was accepted along with Corey Ferguson. And then really exciting news, Nicole Chaffee and Kyle Hysiak, our new master teachers. And it's really inspiring. It's such a different culture when you're talking about like new level of professionalism, right? Like everybody is, I want to say this with the nicest way possible, like super nerds, right? Like we all want to do these great things and do them together and learn how we can take what we're learning and bring it back to our classroom and help our own communities out.
Yeah, but you're doing it. You're doing it here.
It's a blast. And I just stepped up. I am a PLC, so professional learning community facilitator.
Oh, wow.
Of a very appropriate group. It's called Beyond the Classroom.
Wow.
So we try to create the same kind of experiences I would like my students to have with other New York State master teachers. And we put together materials that we can then bring into our classrooms.
Awesome.
So it's super cool.
Very cool. Kasey, what are some things that you've seen in that program, whether it's people, whether it's things that you want to bring back here? Again, you mentioned just that PLC, but being around that greatness, you're able to bring that back. What are some things that you want to bring back here?
A lot of people are so much farther ahead of us with developing the next gen standards and just having other people, other teachers, other colleagues that are living those next gen standards that are so more versed in them than we are. That's something that I think really our department can really benefit from if I can steal as much as I can to help us create those storylines and the phenomenon, all those fun things that the next gen's bringing to us.
Yeah. Kasey, it's got to be rewarding, right? There's no bonuses here in education, but you are really creating a love of learning, a love of science for young people. Is that feel good to you when you have these kids come back or majoring in science, doing things? We had Taylor Johanneman on. She changed the course of her life because after taking your class. That's got to feel good in a way. Yeah,
I think it's really special to hear those unique circumstances where students are so inspired by something that you did. It is the reason why we're here. Like education is always a thankless job, right? Like you remember all those bad moments sometimes, but the ones that really mean stuff where you're hearing about your former students or that they reach out with a text or an email, like that's really why it's all worth it, right? Because at the end of the day, like I'm here to try to help make the world a better place, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do it by me, but if I can inspire my kids, then I am.
Yeah, and she's doing it here. She's doing that. Brought a recycling program here. I mean, I remember Kasey going to the grounds department and measuring the weight of the trash, then to try to reduce that in terms of the liquids, all of that kind of stuff. But you're heavily involved in literally trying to make the world a better place. Sustainability, going green, all of those initiatives, and you're doing it with your students. Again, all of these things, Kasey, why and how do you keep going?
I think part of me is somebody that can't sit still either. So if I'm not doing something new, if I'm not involved in something, like I'll show you my planner, it's every day there's 19 things scheduled.
Wow.
I think it's important to keep busy, keep moving forward, right? Like stagnant is boring.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's certainly not you. Again, we got recognized for the recycling program that got sidetracked with COVID, also. But again, recognized there, and you were also recognized last year. You won the award, Mid Hudson Study Council Award for Excellence in Teaching, being recognized for some of these. What did that mean for you and your family?
That was a surprise. I didn't know there was such a thing. And I really wasn't anticipating any recognition like that coming. I know Mr. Lazar told me he had to have a curriculum meeting with me. So I went to that meeting when he told me with, I think, 2.5 pages of notes of things that I wanted to talk about. So I was totally unaware. But just the fact that I was nominated and received it, I was really honored, and just hearing about all the other educators that were winning that same award, I was humbled to be included amongst them.
Yeah, well deserved. Just really the things you're doing. Kasey, you've taken the teaching and now are a leader. You're a leader in the county, you're a leader here at the school. Tell me about developing your leadership. Again, you were a young teacher around on your cart, and now you're the coordinator. Now you're award winner, you're a master teacher. There's a lot of people looking up to you, your students, other younger teachers. Tell me about your leadership journey and how you continue to grow.
I think when it comes down to being a leader, like the only thing I always think about is I won't ever ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do. Right. Like those are like my dying words. So I try to think like, how do I make things better for everyone? And if I can keep everybody happy, that's my goal. I want to make our district a better place. And if there are things that I can do to help facilitate that, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. You're doing it. You're doing it within the science department. Again, putting our school on the map in a lot of ways. And it's really nice to see.
Thanks.
Yeah. Kasey, any shout outs you want to give? Is there anybody you wanted to recognize or, things that I didn't ask you about?
So let's just talk about my summer program,
Yeah.
the summer research that I do. So because those kids are the real troopers. They're kids so the summer research program, we are studying the effects of the emerald ash borer to our ash population, really to our local ecology. And these kids are spending 45 minimum contact hours for just one college credit. And they're heading out to the woods.
And this is at, sorry, Kasey, this is at Brandywine? This
It's
is
at
the one
Brandywine, yep.
Okay.
And they are going out and we are resurveying. We have about 800 trees in our catalog. So every year they go out, we resurvey the same trees. We get poison ivy. It's hot. It's wet. We're getting rained on. All of these unpleasant things, but they're still going out and they're trying to get the appropriate data. And then we're learning how to make that data work. And then last year was a really special summer. We were selected to release the biological controls there. So we're the first site in our geographical region to get these parasitoids to release. So this summer,
just like Jurassic Park, are we going to have
there? So the wasps it's 3 different species of parasitic wasp, and which I say with a grain of salt because I am very allergic to bees, but they are less. They're smaller than like your fingernail. They're tiny little things. They're stingless. So there should be no Jurassic Park issues. But yeah, so we released them last year, and then we're curious to get back at this summer so we can see if there's been any change in our data. And we'll also conduct population studies to see if the populations have established, and we'll continue releasing them.
Wow. And they are going to decrease the population of the
emerald ash borer.
Emerald ash borer.
Ideally, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, cool. Any of your students, again, that are in that program or right now, say hello.
Avery was in that program.
Tell us something about Miss Stank here. And the kids are earning credit for that as well?
Yeah. So that credits through SUNY ESF as well.
Wow. So what Ms. Stankunas, again, talking about, she's brought college courses here, teaching multiple courses. You also introduced forensics here. You were kind of started that with us. And again, a course that really creates a lot of excitement in learning. Tell me about that.
Well, I was hired under the pretense it was marine biology.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got my schedule, it was forensics. So I had a lot of learning to do.
I think I might have called you with that change.
I don't remember, but yeah, so I had to learn a lot about forensics. But it's a really interesting course because there's so many connections in different sciences, right? Like you can talk about forensic geology, you can talk about forensic ecology, you can talk about forensic like seismology. There's so many different avenues. You can talk about like DNA or serology, odontology. Like there's so much out there that forensics is a great science because you learn so much in each sector. And I've had a lot of students, want to become, forensic something. I think one of them is a forensics accountant that I had like my first or second year. Yeah, it was super cool. Last year we had the Orange County Medical Examiner come in and talk to the kids.
Oh, wow.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Some great stories. A lot of names that he couldn't say, but it's okay. So forensics is a really unique curriculum, and I'm glad that we offer at both of the local and college levels for these kids.
Wow. Kasey, again, 17 years teaching, coaching, bringing new programs here. You've been really part of the change here, right? You and I both over our careers have seen Port Jervis come so far and really grow. You've been part of that. Looking back at it all, what does that mean to you?
I mean, I don't think I've been along for the ride. It's
a
lot of fun.
I disagree, Ms. Stankunas. You're pulling you're pulling the cart there.
I think it's always important to grow, right? Like part of life is growing and seeing where everything can be better.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, involved in so many programs outside of school and then bringing those great things back. Again, we appreciate you, Kasey, and the work you're doing. It's not easy. You make it look easy, but I'm sure there are times where you have to push through yourself. For those challenging times, Kasey, what are some things that you do? Maybe when you don't feel your best, or you lost a game last night, it took an hour and a half to get home. You don't get home until 11 something, and then you're back here the next day at 6:45, 7 in the morning. How did you get through those hard times and show up with a smile on your face?
I mean, there are things that I do personally. Like I like to run, right? Like I'll go run however many miles I need to put myself in a better headspace. But I'm also lucky that I've got a really good community of colleagues in my department and here at Port Jervis High School. So they're always there to lend an ear and kind of let me get through where I need to get through and always put a positive spin on things.
Yeah, volleyball season, you can see Stank running with the girls, yelling. You're usually running backwards, yelling at them, trying to get them to go forward. Well, very cool, Kasey. I appreciate you coming on. You're really a beacon of Port Pride. We're fortunate to have you. Congratulations on all these cool things you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm lucky to be here, I think.
Yeah. If you're watching the show on replay, definitely give Ms. Stankunas a shout. An alumni, any parents, I'd love to hear you put some comments in there because Kasey really is making a positive impact on our school community. Last question, Ms. Stankunas. What does Port Pride mean to you?
That's, you asked me, you told me to be prepared for this question. And I think Port Pride means so much. But at the end of the day, I think Port Pride is something that you just have to own, right? Like, do you own your Port Pride? Put your best foot forward.
Yeah. And she's done that in our science department, for our school, our the coaching the teams, starting the volleyball program. There's so many things that you're attached to, Kasey. Looking back, I'm proud to work with you and certainly glad you're here with us.
It's been a journey, I don't know if you remember this. I think my first year here, I was having a rough day, a rough couple of classes. And he called me in your office and he gave me a note. It said 5 years. And he promised me in 5 years it would be easier.
Oh.
And I don't actually think it's any easier 12 years later. But I think after 5 years, you kind of understand who you are in the profession. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to modify your advice.
Wow. Well, thank God you got through those 5 years, and 17 years later. I mean, this was in a 2-second conversation, just writing down some of these accomplishments, Kasey, and you look back at what you've done and what you've brought here and the kids you've impacted. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. Yeah. It's not over.
It's not over. A lot of time left. Lots to do. And again, that Master Teacher program is really helping you grow, which is going to make us better. So we wish you the best.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Kasey Stankunas, everybody, Port Jervis Science Coordinator, award-winning teacher, master teacher, coach, and somebody, again, we're happy to spotlight. Students, alumni, if you would like to recommend a teacher that's impacted you, if you have a recommendation for the show, please send it my way so we can get them on the podcast.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Kasey. For all of our people tuning in, again, give Kasey a shout out, and thanks for watching, everybody. How about a go Port, Miss Stank?
Go Port.